And notice the whole space that your body is in right now. Notice what it feels like in that space. There's thoughts, there's sensations, there's energy, sense perceptions. Let's take a moment to tune in and see what's going on in this space right now. And notice the sense perceptions, the feeling of air on your skin, feeling of energy in your body. You might be quite calm and settled, or you might be kind of edgy. And take a few deeper breaths and focus for a moment on relaxing into the back of your body. We have this forward momentum often. So we're settling in behind the body and letting ourselves come into the present through that. And as you exhale, let the whole back of your shoulders, back of your neck, large muscles of the upper back, let that whole area relax. We can do this over several breaths. Just keep your attention there on the in breath. And on each out breath, let yourself soften a bit more. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let them settle more fully into the floor. And even when we're dealing with some kind of event or news or scare, we can still sometimes find moments we can focus right on this moment in time. And what's happening right now in your body. Could you soften the back of your body a bit? The shoulders, the muscles of the upper back. So often we're holding ourselves very tightly. We're bracing ourselves or we're defending ourselves. All of that happens through the tension and the contraction in the back of the neck and shoulders. Just notice if you could allow that to relax and soften. Even just a little bit would help. And depending on the level of activity in the mind and the level of distress, it might not really feel all that good to just lie down and be quiet. So give yourself permission. Move around a bit if you want. Take some deep breaths and deep releases if that feels better. And notice that right now in this moment, what is happening? So if you're worried about your health or worried about something that might happen, is it happening in this moment? Is there something that you could deal with in this moment? You could have some ideas about, or you could make a plan, or you could phone and talk to somebody. Or is any of that necessary in this moment right now? And if it is, of course, we would go and do that. And if it's not, then we could let that move to the background. We're not ignoring it, we're just letting it move to the background. And we notice our body, we notice our breath, we notice the mind, the thoughts in the mind. And let your attention be drawn to the mind for a moment, to the thoughts that are coming and going in your mind. The two most common ways that we work with thoughts are tapping, bringing your two fingers to your forehead. And as you're tapping, taking your attention just into that sound and sensation. Very helpful with intense thoughts. And it might not be a worry about the future, it might be something that's going on right now. Something's happened and there's a pain, a change in health, something like that. And then we tune in and we notice this is what's going on in my body, my mind. And the other way, of course, is tracing it. Put a frame around the picture. Take your eyes into that space on the outside of the picture. I think it's helpful to know that a lot of these thoughts, the images, the memories, the words, are associated trauma. So if we've had something happen in the past that's in any way related to this, the mind might bring that forward. We get going into that catastrophic thinking. We might not actually know what's going to happen, but we have experience from the past and we try to project into the future based on that. So we could notice that. I don't actually know what's going to happen. And as we sit with that thought, we can notice what it feels like in our body. The energy or sensation, emotion. I don't actually know what's going to happen. And we could stay with that not knowing. And also with that urgency to know. Most of us would rather have bad news than not know what's going to happen. So there's that urgency in the mind, that kind of underneath feeling that I'd be better to predict the future than to just sit in this not knowing. So catastrophic thinking will likely come up. We sit with not knowing and we're watching the mind, we're noticing our body and breath. At some point, some kind of a future planning thought will likely come up. Now we can do tapping or tracing on the thought. We could just notice it. Oh, there's one. And then come back to an object of focus like the breath or relaxing your muscle. And let yourself be naturally drawn to whatever it is that's holding your attention. For a while, it might be thoughts. And you might work with relaxing your forehead or your jaw. You'll notice your breath for a bit. And things kind of settle. Notice the energy or sensations in your body. You can always work with those directly just by noticing. Notice what it feels like, where it is. Notice the space around it. See if it's welcome, if you're willing to have this here. And if you say to that energy, thank you for being here. I love you, and you're welcome to stay. Notice what happens then. What's your response to that? Without making yourself right or wrong at all. And notice when the mind goes into thought. If it's some kind of catastrophic future thought, then remind yourself. We could just say something like, I notice that I'm catastrophic thinking, or that's actually not happening right now. When I was working with my son's diagnosis, a lot of the time I would work with, right now in this moment, he's okay. Just to help pull ourselves back into this moment instead of being drawn forward. Or right now in this moment, I'm okay. I'm witnessing all of this activity in the mind, in the body. I'm able to tolerate it right now. I could be kind with myself. Really acknowledge that fear is very natural. Resistance against things that are happening, also very natural. There's nothing wrong with you that that's happening in your system. How could we gather ourselves in, really feel into this moment just as it is? Take some deeper breaths. For a moment, really focus on the continuity of the breath. So, just as you're coming to the end of your exhalation, notice that transition as you move into the inhalation. Let everything else move to the background for a few minutes. Something's really intrusive, you could always tap or trace. Just for a few minutes, let's give ourselves a break from that activity. Move back into the breath. Notice what it feels like as you're breathing out. There's that softening of the energy. We know that the air, the stale air that we don't need any longer, is leaving the lungs. So the lungs are becoming smaller in space. Diaphragm muscles coming up under the rib cage. And then we move into that active phase of the breath. Diaphragm muscle pulls down, the lungs come with it, the air rushes in to fill all of the little spaces in the lung tissue. And the oxygen comes in, flows through our bloodstream. We feel that revitalizing energy of the in breath. And then as soon as we have enough in breath, we can let it go. So experiment for the next little while on big breaths, smaller breaths, really noticing the different kind of energy of the out breath and of the in breath. Really focus in on the breath for a few minutes. You can move your body around if you want. If you're sitting, it feels really good sometimes to lift the arms up. Inhale, coming up, open up the sides of your rib cage. And then exhale, let your shoulders release, let your whole body relax. Do that a few times if you like. Notice if you need any reassurance. When we're dealing with something that's intense, it's really hard on our system. We're not getting as much blood flow. We might not be sleeping well. We certainly have more intrusive thoughts in the mind. Sometimes it helps to acknowledge that and give ourselves some support just for how difficult that is. However, that might be for you, putting your hand on your heart, filling yourself with light, just being kind with ourselves always helps. Sometimes it involves some words like, I know I'm really scared right now, or I'm really worried what's going to happen. I don't think anyone's taking care of this. It could be a disaster. Or I hate not knowing what's happening. I'm worried about things. Just to acknowledge that that's here can be helpful too. All of that's perfectly normal response. And then come back into noticing if right now in this moment there's something to enjoy or appreciate. And focus on that. Let everything else move to the background for a minute. What is there to appreciate right now in this moment? As you breathe out, soften into that. And before we finish the practice, set your intention that as you move through the day, that you'll keep noticing. Notice when the mind is moving into catastrophic thinking, when you feel that fear in your body, and then make a commitment to do something. It might be to intervene with a thought, to challenge the thoughts. It might be to support yourself through loving kindness. It might be to call a friend, go out for a walk, whatever that might be. The kindest thing that we can do is to challenge the catastrophic thinking and to not follow through on that. It creates quite a groove in the mind. So as much as we can, it's so helpful to tune in and really be present with ourselves and to notice what our whole experience is in this moment and to notice that we're okay right now.